When it comes to delivery of the message that we would like to communicate to our clients, especially for younger people who are kind of flush with all of this knowledge, there is oftentimes a tendency that they want to dump their bucket. They want to tell you everything from point A to point Z. And a lot of times the eyes start glazing over from the client's perspective, and they'd like to keep it maybe a little bit more simple with a little bit less jargon. We need to concentrate on that. The old phrase of keep it simple, stupid still works. And one of the most successful people in our business was a guy by the name of John Savage. And he used to have just 2 circles that he would draw. And on one circle, he would write, here are the people who save and then spend. And in this circle, here are the people who spend and then save. And he said, the amazing thing that I found out in my career is that the people here who spend and save always wind up working for the people who save and spend. Because when you're spending first, there's almost never the possibility that anything goes to the bottom line. Now, he used to sell 200 or 300 contracts a year in 4 or 5 months. He was a coach before he came into the business, so he knew how to make things simple. And from a delivery standpoint, while we have all the technology, and you can certainly have the information to back up what you're saying, but we don't want to dump that on people when they're trying to get their arms around the whole concept.
I think there are 4 absolutely crucial parts to good communication. The first and foremost is to be a good listener. You must understand what your client is asking for before you can answer. And unless you hear properly, unless you are listening intently and listening to understand rather than listening to respond, you will not be able to get to the root of the client's issues, and you will not be able to answer them properly. Secondly, we have to be clear and concise about how we communicate what we know to our client. We spend a long time learning all of the technical jargon that is needed to communicate with each other more effectively. When we talk to the client, they don't want to know how clever we are and what jargon we know. They want simple, clear answers to their problems, and they want to know that we care about them. So 3, we have to be honest and transparent with our clients at all times. If you don't know something, tell them you don't know. Find the answer. They will see through any lies or any lack of confidence straight away. Give them the bad as well as the good. They will appreciate it in the long run, and you will gain their loyalty and respect. Finally, we have to be patient with our clients. They've sat through a long meeting. We've sat through several meetings today. We want this over with. If we rush it now, we run the risk of losing their loyalty, their understanding, and we run the risk of giving them a bad service. 2 extra minutes at the end of a meeting is probably all it takes to just calmly summarize, relax, allow them the space to answer, to understand, and you've got a loyal client for life.
When we work with clients, I think it is important to recognize what is the best communication style that the client is looking for. We know a few common ones. Some clients are very visual. And in working with these clients, we provide more visuals, more graphs, more materials that they can have a look at. And then if you're looking at working with somebody who is more auditory, we tend to put away all of these visuals and we just have a conversation. And that could be a 90-minute conversation, but they're perfectly comfortable with it because this is how they work. One other ways of building a effective way of communicating with the client is to understand what sort of interest that they have. So if they seem to have, let's say, an interest in sports, then we can use analogies in sports. Using language or communication style that is familiar with the client increases our ability to communicate complex ideas, right? And then simplifying them into ways that they can very quickly pick up and say, I see where you're coming from. I understand that's how it works. It is also important sometimes to make certain provisions about not giving all of the information at one go, is to break them out into pieces and then checking with the clients how we're doing in terms of the understanding. And if they feel like, I think we're about done for this session, we may take a pause and then we go on to the next session to then complete the conversation. When it comes to asking questions, we try to keep it as cordial, as candid, and as open as possible. Before we start the conversation with a client, especially a new one, we would always explain to them that, hey, we have a set of questions that we'd like to ask, and we explain to them the reason for asking these questions is so that we can get a better understanding of where you are and where do you want to go and what are some of the challenges that you're facing. But we'd also give them that space to say, at any point, if some of these questions are questions that you're not ready to answer, we're okay, please just let us know.
Doctors have to sell you on taking a prescription. Lawyers have to tell you on taking advice from them. You have to convince people that your advice to them about their financial life is important. And so the fact that you know a ton of things, if you can't impart that knowledge in simple terms, means that you're not going to be very successful. When you're talking to potential clients, you need to talk their language. Talk to them in the way that you'd like to hear something from a doctor, for example, about medicine that showed that I could understand him because of the way he's explaining it without him giving me all the technical jargon. So that's a technique that really good salespeople, marketing people have, or you're simply going to bore people to death.